In this lecture, we're going to read about the important Sorites. Now, Sorites is a very important concept pertaining to the exam. We'll be looking into a detailed analysis of what do we mean by this. Sorry, when does the situation arise for Sorites and how do we need to deal it? So let's get started. The first question or the questions that we have before us dealing with Sorites are what do we mean by Sorites? How do these occur and how do we go about it? So we'll be following all these questions step by step and we'll be understanding the concept of Sorites, right? Let me start with a question. The question is sometimes what happens that you're given a categorical syllogism. Okay? You're given a categorical syllogism, but that categorical syllogism is not sufficient. Do you understand? That is not sufficient. It is not sufficient enough to account for the ability to draw a desired conclusion from the categorical syllogism. What am I saying? I'm saying, for instance, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Now, this is a classic example of a categorical syllogism. You see here, this categorical syllogism is sufficient. It is sufficient for the simple reason that it has the ability to draw a desired conclusion from the premise itself, right? These are the premises. This is premise 1, premise 2, and this what we have is the conclusion. Fair? Now, the point is that we can draw a conclusion from these. But what happens if this kind of a categorical syllogism is not given? Or what happens if you get a categorical syllogism which is not sufficient enough? Sufficient enough for what? To draw a conclusion, okay, from the premises. So you have looked into this categorical syllogism which is sufficient enough. Now let's look at the example of what we're actually going to deal with. What happens if such questions come in the exam? For instance, all dancers are flexible. Alright, this is our premise 1. The premise 2 is some actors are dancers. This is premise 2. And the conclusion that we have is all, let's say, actors are famous people. Now, let's see what's the problem here. The problem here is that we have dancers, flexible, actors, dancers, actors, and famous people. So how many, terms do we have here? We have dancers, we have flexible, we have actors, we have famous people. Now you know a categorical syllogism can have what? A valid categorical syllogism will have 3 terms: middle, major, and minor. But here we do not have 3, we have 4 terms. So what is the simple thing that we understand from this? That definitely a premise is missing. One of the premises is missing, and as a result of which all actors are famous people is not something that we can actually derive from these premises. Alright, let's look at the other side of it. What if it was all dancers are flexible, some actors are dancers? So this becomes what? Therefore, all actors are flexible. Had this been the syllogism given to you? So this conclusion that we're deriving here, that all actors are flexible, is this a conclusion that we can easily derive from the premises given here? Yes, it is, right? Why dancers? Dancers is the middle term here. This flexible is the predicate term here. In the conclusion, which is the major term, and this is the minor term here. So this is minor, this is major, and the dancers, this one is the middle term. This makes absolute sense. This is a valid categorical syllogism. But the problem here is this. The problem here is what you see in the color blue. So what do we do about this? This is a classic example of a Sorite.